You ever let a split second chance pass by? Like you have this one moment where you can make a decision that completely changes the trajectory of your life, and then you don't. Out of fear, out of confusion, out of judging whether it's actually going to work out or not, and it slips by. And then for the next like couple weeks, you're just thinking about what life would have been like had you decided to go through with that, or even just spend more time doing something, cultivating a certain relationship, or someone saying yes to you instead of no. I think a lot of us are filled with this regret from a life we could have lived had one thing just gone differently. It happens to all of us. We have these life-defining moments where something is going to happen here, and whether it does or it doesn't, your life is going to split in two, and you're only going to be able to go on one of those paths. There's the path you wish that you would have taken, or that's the path you wish things would have gone down. And then there's the path that they did go down. I've had a similar experience. Well, I've had quite a few similar experiences like this throughout my life. But most recently, I think it was a certain friend group that I felt really drawn toward. As I hang out with more creators here in Austin, Texas, I've been meeting a lot of great people. And there was a certain creator group where I really respected what they did. It didn't feel like they were trying to run a business. And I'd really try to stay away from creators who are just talking about, what are you doing to scale? How are you maximizing your monthly recurring revenue? I'm more of a creator than a businessman. I just want to fucking create cool shit. And it felt like this group of people was really doing that. And I had the opportunity to get closer to them. And I wouldn't even say it was like I didn't have the opportunity to take it, because I did, but I didn't. And that's simply just because my life has played out a different way. I've chosen to prioritize different things, and therefore I'm not really close with those people. I see them once every few months, maybe some random event, but I'm not living the life that could have been if I was close to them. And my career could have looked completely different had that happened. And don't get me wrong, man. I am the happiest I'm the most mentally stable I've ever been right now. Things are going so well in almost every facet of my life. And a part of that is due to you guys. I fucking love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me and supporting my channel. But there was a period of time where I was thinking about what they were doing, and I was, watching them on social media, and I was thinking about, what would it be like to be a part of that crew? What would my life look like? Who would I be if I was with them more and doing the stuff that they're doing? And that life you never lived, you can grieve that sort of thing. You can grieve a experience that you never actually had, that you thought you might have had things gone differently. And I bring this up because I think I'm in an incredible position, but I think a lot of people, they really get caught up on that for a long time of oh man, if I just said yes to that one thing, or if I just took that risk, where would my life look? Because in every single moment, we're making a decision. Basically every single moment. We're making a decision, and that decision is a pledge for the person we want to be. Now, there's a lot of arguments regarding free will and determinism. Which one really exists? You could argue that everything is moving on its own. That since the dawn of time, these unseeable forces have moved and continue to push things in certain directions, and therefore you don't have a say. Well, some people think you don't have a say in what happens to you. And as much as you think you have this illusion of free will, it is just an illusion because something else outside of you pushed you to decide to go down that path. But I don't really see it that way. I see it as a bit of a mix of free will and determinism. I think that due to what has happened before you were born and where you grow up and where you're born into, it's going to absolutely influence you to do certain things. Like I talk about in these videos, like the environment you grow up in, the people you listen to are all going to change your perspective and your beliefs, and that's therefore going to change your perception of things, and it's going to make you pay attention to more things over others, and you're naturally going to be drawn towards doing things, whether good or bad, that are related to the experiences you've had so far in life. And in that way, that's kind of like the determinism part of life. But as stupid as it sounds, you can choose to change that path, to make the paths diverge and start this path that is completely off of the path you've been going on so far, which might be a path you don't like, saying no to the wrong things, saying yes, or saying no to the right things, and saying yes to the wrong things, and not going after the things you want. Like that could be the story that's defined this path so far. And every decision, think about with every decision you make, at least two paths diverging off of that decision. And the one path is what you decided to do. The other path is what you didn't decide to do. And imagine how much more paths are going to diverge off of those two paths. That's kind of what life is. It's this tree continuously creating new branches at every decision we make. And so I think you can influence that tree, the growth of that tree. And you can influence what branch you end up at, what branches you do end up at. So when people feel super regretful of the choices they didn't take, I totally understand that, because we can hallucinate basically the person we think we would be if all those things went right. We can start to visualize, like, you could have been an actor or a professional athlete if you didn't get that injury, or you could be with that girl if you took the risk of saying, I'm going to ask her out, or if you decided to stand up for yourself with that one friend group. It's like all of these different decisions, spiritually, financially, relationship. Yes, we can visualize it to such an extent that it overpowers our emotions. And that's where the grieving process and the regret comes in. Regret is essentially hallucinating and visualizing a life never lived. In that sense, at least. Of course, you can grieve from things in the past that have happened that are tangible, like the loss of a loved one. But in the sense of where your life could have gone, you can grieve where your life could have gone, because you can visualize and hallucinate things so vividly to the point where you can feel the emotions you might have felt had those things gone right, but know that you're not there. And it's a very dangerous and addictive, powerful thing to get entrenched in, for sure, is having all these regrets and just living in the lives that you never got the chance to experience. It's like, oh, what if things just one thing would have gone differently? And then you just sit there and think about what could have been. It's just not healthy. It's not healthy. And it's something I've realized too. And it's much easier to accept the lives you never lived when you're living a life you enjoy. So if you're really hung up on these regrets, then it's a good indicator that something needs to change in your life too. Otherwise, you would be too focused on living your own life. There is really no productive reason to continuously reflect on what could have been, unless it's going to teach you something. And you're going to ask yourself, okay, how can I avoid this regret in the future? Because regret can be a great teacher, but it's not a place to stay for long. And in this most recent case for me with that friend group, thinking about where I could have gone. I would have been going around the world more and meeting all these new people. The way I got over that is simply to just tell myself, I don't know, that's not the life path I was meant to go down. And this gets into destiny. And I think that some things just feel right in your life to move towards more than others, and you don't know why. And that's part of destiny. And I think you should listen to that intuitive hunch a lot of the time when it comes to big life decisions. But at the same time, I understand that I am in control of my destiny. I know that the decisions I chose were mine, despite the determinism that has happened in my life, despite the experiences I've had in the environment I grew up in, those circumstances. I can choose to make the paths diverge and continue diverging and continue going down that path that leads me to a life where I'm thriving every single day. And I feel like that's what I've done. I've consciously made decisions in every moment, consciously thought, or unconsciously a lot of the time too, because we're unconsciously making decisions basically all the time. That, okay, what is the person I'm trying to become? I visualize that certain identity, and I make it very clear and distinct. And I ask myself, well, is this thing really related to the person I'm trying to become in this moment? As enticing as it is, because that's what it was with this friend group. It was really enticing thinking about who I could be and what my career would look like if I started hanging out with these people more. But is that really the person I'm trying to build long term? Is this a path I want to go down? And then thinking about the paths that are going to come out of this path, if I decide to say yes and decide to use my free will to hang out with these people more, is that the life I want to start building? And the more I thought about that, I was like, well, actually, no, not really. What I want is more stability. What I want is to be with the love of my life, my wife, more often. What I want is what I'm doing right now, to get that all in order. And every day feels intentional because of that. And I don't get too hung up on regret. So this is what you got to understand. You're going to grieve lives you've never lived. You're going to feel this heaviness for if things could have gone a certain way. Well, they didn't. And maybe they weren't meant to, or maybe just in that moment, you made the wrong decision, objectively. The question is, what good is it staying there? What are you going to do about it? Every moment we have the choice to intentionally decide where to put our energy. And maybe it felt like that thing that you wish would have happened should have been the thing that happened and would have made your life so much better. I don't know, maybe, but there's no use getting hung up on that. There's only use in what you have control over and choosing to intentionally focus on that more and direct your choices toward a person that you feel like you'd be proud of to show up as every single day. Even if it's not the most romanticized version of yourself, which usually exists in these regretful reflections. Life is just full of these experiences that you don't know why they happen, or you look back and you wish things would have gone differently, or you would have said something differently, you would have made a different choice. That's just what life is, and you got to choose to decide what you want to do and what paths you want to go down, and whether you like the outcome of the paths that will diverge from this path. And that's it. That's all you can really do. And you have a lot of control over that. You probably have more control than you think. It's time to stop regretting all these things you did and grieving over lives you never lived. Just choose to create the life as much as you possibly can with your free will and with the circumstances you currently have, and maximize the cards you've been dealt, which may not be a maximization that's comparable to most people And that's just the way it is. But if you work within the cards you're dealt, you will be surprised where those paths diverge due to the positive decisions you make. This is a huge theme in my upcoming novel that I've been writing for the past 7 months. It's called Fractured Worlds. It's about a 21-year-old who goes through a really tragic loss and develops the ability to see into a parallel reality. And in that parallel reality, he's going to try to search for the thing he lost. He's going to try to not live with this regret of, I wish things went differently, but instead try to actualize what life would look like if the loss didn't happen in another reality where he has the chance to do that. And it's going to be really interesting how this plays out. If you want to get updates on the book as I'm writing it, you can subscribe to my Substack, link in the description. If you want to talk to people who will help you make more conscious, intentional decisions that push you towards a higher version of yourself, you can join my self-mastery school. We meet in a video call every single weekend to discuss things like this. Link in the description if you're interested in that. And that is it.